On February 27, 2026, the Middle East was quiet. The world seemed to hold its breath, suspended in a rare moment of uneasy peace. In Tehran, families gathered for late-night meals, sharing laughter and stories, unaware of the storm about to break over their city and their lives. The city's hum continued, neon lights flickering, cars weaving through the streets, no hint of the chaos to come. Deep in command centers in Washington and Tel Aviv, tension was palpable. Every movement was watched, every signal analyzed. Screens glowed with satellite feeds, generals made final checks, voices low and urgent as they reviewed the last details. The operation, epic fury to the Americans, roar the lion to the Israelis, was months in the making, shaped by countless hours of planning and secrecy. Its aim, a decisive, crippling blow to Iran, designed to reshape the region overnight and send shockwaves far beyond its borders. On board the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Gerald R. Ford, crews prepared for war, checking every bolt and system as adrenaline surged. Pilots walked to their jets, missile crews ran diagnostics, each person focused, knowing the world could change in an instant. Every sailor and officer knew the gravity of their mission. The weight of history pressed on their shoulders. Thousands across continents moved in perfect sync toward a single explosive moment, their actions choreographed with precision. The world was about to witness warfare executed with unprecedented speed and precision, a display of modern power and coordination. The plan relied on surprise, technological superiority, and shock. Tools honed for a new era of conflict. The calm itself was a weapon, lulling Iran into a false sense of security as if nothing could disturb the night. The first missiles were already in launch tubes, bombers were airborne, silent and unseen, engines whispering through the darkness. The quiet of that February night was the last breath before a plunge into conflict, a fleeting peace soon to be shattered. In moments, the sky would be torn apart by fire, and the world would awaken to a new reality. The Middle East, and the world, stood on the edge of transformation, poised between peace and fury, as history prepared to turn a page. Operation Epic Fury was the culmination of weeks of intense, secret lobbying by Israel and Saudi Arabia, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to build a case for action. Both nations argued that Iran's expanding nuclear ambitions and its network of proxies across the region pose an existential threat not only to themselves, but to the broader stability of the Middle East. President Trump, now in his second term, authorized the strike despite lingering doubts within the intelligence community about whether an attack was truly imminent or justified. Supporters hailed the decision as bold and necessary, while critics warned it would destabilize the region, bypass Congress, and potentially ignite a wider conflict. The operation's stated goals were sweeping: cripple Iran's military and industrial infrastructure, with a focus on nuclear sites, missile plants, and drone factories that could threaten neighboring countries. But there was also a covert objective: to eliminate Iran's top leadership, including Supreme Leader Khamenei and key IRGC commanders, in hopes of decapitating the regime. The hope was that by collapsing the regime's command structure, Iran would be unable to mount a coordinated response, buying time for diplomatic efforts. The debate among policymakers and the public was fierce, with emotions running high, but the momentum for war proved unstoppable. The architects of the plan believed that inaction was ultimately riskier than launching a bold, decisive strike, given the stakes involved. The world would soon see if their gamble paid off. The stakes were nothing less than regional stability, global security, and the balance of power in the Middle East. The future of the Middle East now hung in the balance, watched anxiously by leaders and citizens alike. The countdown to war had begun, and the world braced for what would come next. Just before dawn on February 28, the assault began. The world held its breath as the first hints of light crept over the horizon, unaware of the devastation about to unfold. US and Israeli forces synchronized their attacks, missiles and bombers striking targets across Iran at the same instant, a display of military coordination rarely seen in modern warfare. Cruise missiles from US warships and submarines flew low over the Gulf, hugging the water to avoid detection and maximize surprise. Israeli bombers released their payloads with precision, targeting critical infrastructure and military installations deep inside Iranian territory. Explosions rocked Tehran, Isfahan, and military sites nationwide, sending shockwaves through the heart of the country. Missile silos, naval bases, and radar stations were hit in a coordinated, overwhelming wave, leaving defenses crippled and command centers scrambling. The USS Abraham Lincoln and Gerald R. Ford unleashed torrents of Tomahawk missiles, each one guided by real-time satellite imagery and advanced targeting systems. The sky over Iran became a spectacle of streaking missiles and desperate anti-air fire, illuminating the night with chaos and destruction. For civilians, it was terror. Windows shattered, alarms wailed, and smoke filled the air as families scrambled for safety in the darkness. Iconic landmarks were struck. Panic and chaos spread rapidly through the streets as confusion reigned and people searched for loved ones. State media went silent, the internet flickered and died, cutting off millions from the outside world and fueling uncertainty. For hours, Iranians were cut off, facing the reality of a nation under massive assault, isolated in darkness and fear. The scale and precision of the attack stunned the world, as news outlets scrambled to keep up with the unfolding crisis. As dawn broke, Soterfurdum Kenden, Dam Bom Broda, smoke rose over Iranian cities. The first act of epic fury was complete, but the world knew this was only the beginning. The attack's success relied on electronic warfare as much as firepower. U.S. aircraft jammed Iranian communications and radar, flooding screens with false data. Swarms of decoy drones, MALDs, mimicked large formations, tricking Iran's air defenses into wasting missiles and revealing their positions. Iran's integrated air defense network was blinded and fragmented. Communication broke down. Commanders faced chaos on their screens. This paralysis opened the way for the next phase. Stealth fighters, U.S. F-22s, F-35s, and Israeli F-35Is slipped through the gaps, targeting critical sites. These jets struck with lethal precision, nearly invisible to radar. The electronic assault was as devastating as the physical one. Iran's defenses were shattered, its command structure in disarray. The path was clear for the operation's most ruthless phase. A central goal was the elimination of Iran's senior leadership. Supreme Leader Khamenei's compound was struck with bunker-busting munitions. Other high-value targets included IRGC commanders and top officials. Their command posts and residences were hit in the opening wave. Hours later, Iranian state media confirmed Khamenei was dead. The news sent shockwaves through Iran and the Islamic world. The attack also killed members of Khamenei's family and other key leaders, creating a power vacuum. The regime was left leaderless and in chaos. The message was clear: no one was beyond reach. The decapitation strategy had succeeded, at least for now. Iran's future was suddenly uncertain. While the U.S. dominated the seas and skies, Israel executed its own mission. Roar the Lion. Israeli jets flew over 1,000 miles, navigating secret routes to strike Iran's most hardened nuclear and missile sites, their targets underground enrichment facilities at Natanz, and Fordow, and hidden missile centers. Using bunker-busting bombs and precision munitions, Israeli pilots delivered devastating blows. The operation required mid-air refueling and flawless coordination. U.S. electronic warfare blinded Iranian radar, allowing Israeli fighters to strike undetected. Real-time intelligence sharing ensured seamless attacks. For Israel, this was more than a strike. It was a statement of resolve and capability. The lion had roared, echoing from the Mediterranean to Iran's mountains. The region would never see Israel the same way again. Iran, battered but not broken, retaliated within hours. Hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones targeted Israel, U.S. bases, and allied nations. Air raid sirens wailed across the Middle East. Missile defenses lit up the night sky. The sheer volume of attacks strained even the most advanced systems. The UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait faced relentless barrages. Some missiles broke through, causing fires and injuries. In Abu Dhabi and Dubai, drones hit targets, igniting blazes. Bahrain's capital saw smoke rising after interceptions. Qatar reported injuries from falling shrapnel. Even neutral Oman was struck. Explosions rocked U.S. bases in Iraq. Civilian air traffic was grounded. Iran's response showed its missile capabilities remained formidable. The conflict had become a regional inferno, threatening to spiral out of control. Fear and chaos spread far beyond the blast zones. The fire was spreading with no end in sight. Behind the military headlines, civilians bore the brunt. Strikes on military targets caused inevitable civilian casualties. In the first hours, over 130 civilians were reported killed, likely many more. A missile missed its mark, hitting a girls' school near Tehran. Over 100 children died. Hospitals, already overwhelmed, were struck by secondary blasts. Iran plunged into isolation as the internet was nearly blacked out. Families were cut off. News was scarce. Fear and paranoia spread. Streets emptied, people hid in homes and shelters, praying for safety. The psychological toll was immense, security shattered, daily life destroyed. For millions, war was not politics, but bombs falling from the sky. The scars would last long after the shooting stopped. The shockwaves of epic fury rippled worldwide. The UN condemned the escalation, warning of grave threats to peace. Oil prices soared as attacks on tankers disrupted global supply. Protests erupted at U.S. embassies. Violence flared in Karachi and Baghdad. Anti-American sentiment surged across the Muslim world, creating new security risks. The decapitation of Iran's leadership left a dangerous power vacuum. Regional powers scrambled to respond, fearing wider war. The Middle East's balance of power was shattered, replaced by volatility. As of March 1st, the situation remains tense. Iran's capabilities are damaged, but not destroyed. The region is a tinderbox. One misstep could trigger catastrophe. Millions have been upended and the long-term consequences are unknown. The bold strike intended to solve a problem may have unleashed far greater dangers. The world now faces a new era of instability.